Hey everybody, Mo here, and today I'm going to bring you guys an updated video of the Champions tier list for the League of Legends Swarm game mode for the live patch. We've had it for about half a week now, so I have a lot of information, a lot of experience on all of the champions, and most importantly, we have all of the data from the live patch. So this is going to be an updated version of my last video, which went over all of the tier list in beta. That video did pretty alright, and then a lot of people started looking at it from the live patch, and they were like, what? This doesn't make sense. This doesn't make sense. Why is this champion here? And so I wanted to update it with the live patch. I was going to do that anyways, but people kind of beat me to it. I wanted to wait a couple of days to get a good opinion on it. I didn't want to just jump day one when I only had half the champions unlocked. Opinion on it. So now that it's been a few days, I have a good opinion on it. I want to just jump right into it, fresh out the shower, jump right into the tier list. So we're just gonna go from right to left here as they have it in alphabetically order. And first off, we're gonna start with Yasuo. So this was the guy, this was beta. Swarm was Yasuo. It was basically the Yasuo game mode. And in live patch, Yasuo is still S tier. He is still insanely strong. The Steel Tempest evolution is going to still be like the strongest weapon in the game. If you ask anybody that plays a lot, there's basically two champions in contention for the top two champions in the game right now, and Yasuo is still one of them. And if you ask people what is the best upgraded weapon, the biggest joke is a lot of people will reply with Steel Tempest. Even though it's not a weapon, upgraded Steel Tempest is still just insanely strong. It's a little downside to Yasuo is his early game kind of sucks, but outside of his early game, he is insanely strong. As soon as you level up the Steel Tempest, you're just good to go. I put out a really funny video where I literally play a Aatrox map where I cannot see. I zoom all the way in to give myself this littlest amount of like vision possible as I can while still being able to play and move around the map. And spoiler alert, it went pretty well, and I used Yasuo. I called it the blindfold challenge, so if you're interested in seeing that, go check it out on my channel. But the point being is not just a plug, is to show you that Yasuo is so good that you could just kind of beat champions without even looking at them. He was the first person I ever soloed Extreme mode, or he was the second, Riven was the first. I soloed Aatrox on Extreme with Yasuo. It's gotten to the point to where if I play Yasuo, it's strictly because I want to show how big of a number I can make, or because I have some sort of like funny challenge going on, and I know that if I play Yasuo, it's the highest odds I have of beating whatever funny challenge I'm doing. So yeah, Yasuo is still insanely strong moving from beta over to live patch. Next is we have Xayah. So Xayah is still promptly in A tier. She's still not quite S tier. Her E has gotten a little bit longer of a cooldown, but outside of that, her damage numbers are still immaculate. Her R is still pretty okay as far as saving yourself from it. The biggest issue with Xayah is dealing with a bunch of things, so you kind of have to take projectiles or take weapons that help you deal with multiple waves. Because single targets or things kiting directly at you, if you can kite them in a straight line from you, you deal with immaculately well, like insanely well. Any boss that runs at you, you kind of just kill the boss and you're chilling. Because you can just kite it directly backwards. Halfway through, you pull your E, and then it, stuns it, takes away half its HP, and you just sit there, rack up feathers, and then as soon as it starts walking towards you again, you just pull your E, and you can just two-shot any boss in the entire game, and it is really, 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 really easy. Her single target damage is beyond the greatest in the entire game. However, she does struggle in the sense of her early game is not the strongest, but really why she struggles is she has such a hard time dealing with big waves of enemies or making her way through the map in certain maps where you have choke points. She has a really hard time going through those because all she really has is single target damaging. So you have to use your ultimate to go through any amount of choke point, which at that point is pretty fine, but if you have to constantly be moving around the map, it's too hard. On teams or in like matchmaking, or if you're playing with your friends and you have a tank that you can sit by, Xayah next to a tank, however, is completely unstoppable because you have the tank to be able to pull any type of aggro or clear any type of choke point you need or anything like that. Of course, you have the Leona E, the Riven, big AoEs and stun, stuff like that. So Xayah is really, really good in those scenarios. But again, just by herself, she can't really do a whole lot in that regard. If you get too behind or if you miss position with Xayah, your run can kind of just end really quickly out of nowhere, even though you're doing these insane damage numbers and melting through any boss or any single target unit in the game. Next is Seraphine. Seraphine is a very, very, very solid B tier champion, and I'm not saying B tier is bad. I'm just saying B tier is really good. She could even be low A. The only reason I'm putting her in B tier is because she's kind of slow, and for some similar reasons. In matchmaking, she's really good. We can even put her like low A in matchmaking. In solo, she kind of runs into similar problems of not being able to carve her way out of bad scenarios. You have your ultimate, but that only lasts for so long. The biggest issue that Seraphine has is that her damage is just not very high. You have great kind of AoE in a sense because you have your projectiles going straight, projectiles going out catty corners, deals like that scenario. Your ult obviously is very good AoE damage, makes you immune as well as makes your teammates immune. However, she just does not contribute a whole lot when behind, and if she ever has to fight her way out of like a corner, it can be really difficult if you don't have that ultimate available to you, or if you don't have your auto attack kind of multi-stacked. You have the shield and everything, but the shield gets eaten through really quickly. The attack movement speed isn't one of the best stats in the game unless you're specifically Riven. So she's definitely a very solid character. She's very easy to play, but she's not super duper outstanding. But you can easily solo Aatrox with Seraphine once you get enough upgrades, some animas, stuff like that for you. Next is Riven, and Riven is going to be in S tier. S tier tank. The only issue with Riven is she is kind of hard to play. So I actually contemplating putting Riven in the highest of A tiers, lowest of S tiers. At the end of the day, they're essentially the same, but it's my tier list and I love Riven, and she was my first ever main in League, so I'm going to put her in S tier. So with Riven, her early game, not the greatest. However, once you start scaling that movement speed, a lot of champions' early games aren't the greatest, so it's not like hers is like especially bad. But once you get to the point to where you can just get a humongous shield and you're like two-shotting everything you run into, she becomes a phenomenal tank. She can run around the entire map. She's one of the characters where movement speed does matter a lot for her. She can go and help clear out choke points for anyone that needs it. She can help go revive anyone, even if someone finds themselves dead in the middle of, a whole 2 waves of mobs. Riven is one of the few champions that can actively go over there, fight her way through it, and then not only kill all the waves around it, but revive the teammate that went down and kind of set up a protection, or it's a really good way to say, hey, follow me, I'm clearing this path for you, I'm setting you up for success. She's a really good team player for things like matchmaking, playing with your friends, but she's also a really solid solo player. Again, she was the very first champion I ever soloed Aatrox with. It just gets to a point to where you can kind of just run around all willy-nilly, not really care about what's going on, and you're just getting this massive HP shield and you're just killing everything. And on top of that, you have your ultimate, where if you ever have your ult available because you are in trouble or things are getting kind of scary for you, your ult just gives you even more power, even more shield, and even more damage, thanks to being able to throw projectiles out and stop anything you need to. There's like one mob that ever gives her issues, and it's the Death Frog mob. However, if you kill a Death Frog, there's like a very small window where once it dies, the damage it leaves behind doesn't actually hurt you, so you can just run over them, kill them, and then just keep on running like it's nobody's business, and the death frogs aren't really a big issue for you anyways. But Riven is very good. She got a really big step up from beta and is probably the best tank in the game, or not probably, it's the best tank in the game for sure. The only thing is she's a little bit hard to learn. You have to kind of learn the spacing on the AoEs, but on the AoEs of like her auto attacks, movements, and her stun, stuff like that for you. But once you get that down, you just play a few games with her, she'll be really solid tank for you, and can also put out a lot of damage. I put out a video, or actually I have a video coming out where I actually teach you guys, and I follow my own steps of how to carry in matchmaking. I apply those skills in the video to show you guys how to do it. I pick Riven as an option, and I show you exactly what how I play Riven in the matchmaking games where you're trying to carry. But the most important thing is I also deal a lot of damage. I did the second most damage in the game, right behind the Yasuo, but the Yasuo didn't outdamage me too much, while also tanking, clearing waves, creating paths, reviving teammates many times. There was a point where, I think it was the boss fight, I went and I actually revived all of my teammates twice, and I was the only one alive because of how well I was able to tank, the shields I was able to gain, stuff like that for you. So Riven, very solid. Speaking of tanks, we have our second tank out of the 3 real tanks that we have in Swarm, and that is Leona, and Leona is a very solid A tier. The biggest thing about Leona, the biggest, most important factor about Leona that's contributing to her score is she's incredibly easy to play. She's super duper entry level easy to play. If you have a friend that just wants to play tanks, that's just their vibe, if they like the melee champions, or if maybe the DPS or the kiting and positioning, stuff like that, it can be slightly too hard for them right now, where they're still learning the game mode. tell them how to unlock Leona. You can unlock Leona your very first game playing. And then after that, have them try Leona out, because it's very simple. All of her stuff is very simple. She has melee auto attack that has a little bit of range to it, so that can help them learn how to space auto attacks. She has a really simple ability, which is I'm going to click shield. It's like a, oops, like save me button, you know, that gives you a big shield, but it also deals some damage, can clear some ways. On top of that, and then the ult is also something really easy, especially if they ever played League of Legends. Her ult is going to be very easy for them to understand. You click on scary guy or you click on scary mob, and then boom, it will kill a whole bunch of little things. It will stun the big things to give you guys some time to run away. Leona truly is the best fundamental character to learn Swarm on. So if you have anyone that you're trying to teach Swarm to, or if they're kind of like in the middle, or if they usually like these types of games, and they also play League, but they're not really super into Swarm yet, have them try Leona, because Leona will be really easy for them to understand how to play Swarm while also learning all the other mechanics to the game. So that's really the biggest benefit to Leona. On top of that, she actually is a pretty good tank. She does a really good job at surviving. You know, once you get her full build online, she's really good. Her early game is actually really good. She doesn't really have that bad of an early game. The downside is that her end game, she doesn't really scale too high. Like, once you get your stats and you get your weapons, there's not too much you can really do with Leona. Her DPS is just not super existent. Not super existent once you get in lobbies with people that have evolved like a whole bunch of upgrades and animals and stuff like that. Her damage just has a really big cap on it, but her tankiness and her ability to be played is very, very, very solid. Next is Jinx. So Jinx was undoubtedly the worst champion in the game in beta, like actually unplayable in beta. She was really, really bad. It was actually really funny that she was the champion they gave you to play first. I put her in F tier on my last video, but she had a really big glow up, and with that, she's going to go into B tier, right behind Seraphine. Jinx is actually a playable champion now. Jinx isn't like super good. I'm not going to pretend like she's amazing, but she's definitely a playable character now, and you can play her and you can have fun. Her movement speed's really cool. Her E has a really low cooldown. Obviously, the downside is your E forces you to stop moving, which kind of sucks, but has really good damage output, like single DPS output, because of her upgraded ability being able to shoot in a straight line. The biggest thing that she has going for her is that you upgrade her auto attack is always what I'm going to call it, but the passive needed to upgrade her auto attack is ability haste, and that's also what's needed to upgrade Udwu Blaster, which is the best item in the game, or the best weapon in the game. So that's really nice for her, and you can sometimes upgrade that accidentally really, really quickly. But the really downside why she's not any higher than B, what you might be asking, is she's just kind of worse than all the other damage dealers, except for like one of them, but we'll get to that later on. And that's just kind of like facts. That's not even like a biased opinion, because I've played all of these champions. I've played them a lot. I've played in lobbies with a lot of other people, and I cannot explain to you how every time I pick Jinx, somebody else will pick a different damage dealer outside of Aurora, essentially, spoiler alert, and they will always outdamage me, and it just does not matter what my build is, how early I evolve my auto attack. I will get outdamaged every single time. And not just me, but other people that pick Jinx has the same thing. When you first start up, load up a game with your friend where one of you plays Seraphine, one of you plays Jinx, and assuming you both have the same skill level and fight the same amount of mobs, the Seraphine will just outdamage you. And it won't feel bad, because Jinx feels really good. She looks really flashy. But I was playing, and I had like maybe 10 games in on my friend. My friend played with me. He picked up Seraphine for, I am not joking, his second game ever. I was 10 games in with Jinx, so I had some upgrades, and he still outdamaged me on Seraphine. And I was just like, I don't know, like, Jinx felt good. I don't know what to tell you. She's not bad. She does a really good job at, you know, killing things. She can kill bosses in extreme mode. I haven't gotten to kill Aatrox with her in extreme mode solo yet, but I've soloed, I mean, Xayah a million times with her, soloed the other two, the Briar, the Bel'Veth with Jinx. So she can do it. It's just the biggest thing I need people to understand when they say things like, you're wrong, Jinx is so good, I just accomplished X, you know, X achievement with Jinx. I need people to understand that because you can accomplish that on a champion does not mean that, or most of the time you could have accomplished the same thing on a different champion much easier, or you could have accomplished it better. And that's really what you get out with Jinx, is Jinx is just simply worse Xayah. The only kind of benefit thing is Jinx has an ability that deals with AoEs, so she has a little bit of a better time dealing with the things around her if she gets swarmed, and Xayah doesn't really have that. But the thing Xayah does have on Jinx is she just simply outputs like 2x damage as Jinx. So she will be killing a lot of things faster than Jinx. She'll kill bosses a lot faster than Jinx. They both prioritize single target damage, with Xayah shooting in a straight line, Jinx shooting in a straight line. The difference is if you need to, and if you set Xayah up well, you can kind of attack multiple lanes at a time. Like you throw feathers here for a second, throw feathers here for a second, throw feathers here for a second, recall them, and then now you're killing kind of multiple lanes. But Jinx just does not do enough damage. And that is just like, if you look at the damage charts, you look at them game after game, she just does not do enough damage. And it's very sad to say. She's very satisfying to play. She's very good. You can beat all of them on, you can solo every boss on hard. I'm sure you can solo Aatrox on extreme. I just haven't done it yet. But I've soloed all the other bosses on extreme. So she's definitely a playable, like, you know, a good character. Again, B tier is good. You can solo Aatrox with it. But she is just not anything to write home about. Next up, the last 3 champions. I'm going to do 2 of them really quickly, so don't blink or you'll miss it. Boom, boom. These champions suck. They are horrible. Illaoi is not good. If you watched the last video, I had Illaoi at S tier. Holy moly, did they nerf my girl super duper hard. They reduced the amount of heals her tentacles gave her and her team. They reduced the cooldown on her E ability, so you don't get them as often. And the damage is just like non-existent. I don't know what they did. I don't know if it's the damage on her tentacles, her auto attack, though maybe it's the longevity of her tentacles. I'm not exactly sure the numbers on that. But what I do know is I am getting out damaged every game on Illaoi against Leona's, who is like the second lowest damage character in the game outside of, you know, Aurora. Which brings me to Aurora. Why is this champion here? This champion does. If your friend picks Aurora, they're not your friend. They don't like you. They want to make this job as hard for you as possible. Satan hired them to make you lose in your swarm games. While Aurora is extremely broken in League of Legends, she cannot kill anything in swarm. Not a single thing. Not a wave, not a unit. The fact that you load into the Aatrox map on extreme. Actually, I think it was hard mode when we tried this. I loaded into the Aatrox map hard mode with one of my friends, so it's 2 people, not even 4-person difficulty, 2-person difficulty. Aurora stopped one-shotting the basic itty-bitty baby minions immediately. There's like the very super basic ones that start when you spawn. She was one-shotting those with her ability. As soon as like the 1.5 difficulty of minions come out, so like not the baby minions, but like the baby minions came out, she stopped one-shotting them. You started having to hit things twice, or at least mark a whole things for your passive to kill them, which just takes up way too much time, and it puts you behind because now you don't have the XP quick enough to be able to deal with the 3rd wave of minions. So she hurts you guys there really, really bad. Isn't helping anything. But then on top of that, when the 3rd wave of minions come, I am not kidding you guys. You have to hit those minions at least 3 times and then have your passive go off before those minions actually die. Like, Aurora is horrible and unplayable. And if you get matchmaking and you have at least one Aurora on your team, just assume you're going to lose and don't put a lot of emotional emotional investment into that game, because it's not going to go well even if you make it to the final boss, or one of your guys is going to super carry and look really cool. Yeah, so these champions, Aurora is definitely unplayable. Illaoi's not like unplayable, but she's definitely not good. She's just certainly worse than everything else. I don't know if you can solo Aatrox with Illaoi right now. I can't even solo Briar with Illaoi right now. And in fact, when I tried to solo Aatrox on hard mode, I couldn't beat the obelisk. Like, I died to Aatrox on hard mode with Illaoi because I couldn't kill the obelisk in time, and a death wave came in and killed me. So it was not a good time. Now, maybe, you know, with some anima powers and stuff like that, your Illaoi can do that. But if you're having to struggle that hard against, you know, hard mode or just extreme not Aatrox level bosses like Bel'Veth on Briar on extreme, champion is not very good. And speaking of Briar, that's the last champion in the game, and Briar, in my opinion, is second tier. Now, Briar and Yasuo are kind of like the undisputed #1 and #2 champions in the game mode right now, mostly because Briar's lifesteal is out of this world, makes her insanely hard to kill, makes her really, or gives her a lot of sustain because she's really hard to kill, so she can solo just about every boss without even having a whole bunch of anima powers. She gets to solo all the hard bosses super easily, so all the extreme bosses except for Aatrox extremely easily, and then Aatrox can get kind of annoying, but once you get your stuff upgraded and get a little bit of stuff going for you and dodge enough arrows, she becomes crazy. She gets an iframe with her ultimate. She can travel across the map to revive any teammate she needs to. While doing so, she travels across the map to revive the teammate, but then also blows up anything that she lands on, kills them, like heals herself a whole lot if she needs to, on top of the heal that her ult gives her. And that's just ridiculous. Her frenzy state gives her so much attack speed that if you just build the slightest amount of DPS onto her, like damage and crit onto her, she just gets out damaging just about everybody in the game except for like maybe a Yasuo. And then on top of all of that, her upgraded ability gives her a bleed and a huge ranged auto attack. Like if you get what is it, like size or whatever it's called, if you get that upgraded on Briar with her passive already upgraded, you're just swiping things from like across the map for no reason. Obviously not literally, but your swipe becomes this giant AoE, and you can just sit back in a corner just like you can with the Yasuo and his tornadoes, and you sit back in a corner and you just let swipes go swiping. You know, you say swipe or no swiping, and it just goes crazy, and she's insane. But this is the updated tier list for the live as of right now. I'll post another one, and again, another like week or two, or if there's a patch or anything like that, to kind of go over any type of changes. So hope you guys enjoy it. Make sure to subscribe for those who enjoyed it. My last tier list video popped off, and a lot of people really enjoyed it and subscribed. Appreciate all of you guys. Make sure to watch all my gameplay videos also, where I go over all of these champions. I'm posting videos with every champion here, even the not very good champions, to show you guys what they can do. I'm posting solo Aatrox on extreme modes. I'm posting challenge type videos, whole bunch of really fun Swarm content. So if Swarm's something you guys really enjoy and you like seeing both fun content and like really sweaty content, this is going to be the place to be. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I'll see you guys in the next video.